In the summer of 2015, in an old house in rural Pennsylvania, a young woman named Emily, whose name has been changed, had just returned after years away. Her grandmother had recently passed away, and Emily was the only remaining relative, so she had to come to settle matters related to the house. Emily's grandmother's house was located deep in a secluded forest, far from any other residences. It was old and dilapidated, with rotting wooden walls and dusty, grimy windows. Emily had never liked this house. It always gave her an indescribable cold and gloomy feeling. As Emily stepped inside, the smell of mildew and decay hit her nostrils. The house was dark and eerily quiet. Old, dusty furniture lay still in the shadows. Emily shivered, feeling like someone was watching her from the darkness. Emily began to walk around the house, checking each room. Everything seemed normal, albeit old and dirty. It wasn't until she entered the living room that a strange sight caught her eye. In the middle of the floor, right under the dim light, was a peculiar circle drawn with some kind of white powder. The circle was about 2 meters in diameter, with strange characters and drawings surrounding it. Emily had never seen anything like it before. She carefully approached to observe it more closely. The characters in the circle looked like ancient letters she couldn't read. The drawings were bizarre and frightening, with images of skulls, grotesque creatures, and symbols she couldn't understand. Emily felt a cold fear spread through her body. She didn't know what this circle was, but it made her feel extremely uneasy. She had a premonition that this was not a harmless prank. She tried to recall if her grandmother had ever mentioned anything strange like this. Emily's grandmother was a kind and gentle woman. She couldn't imagine her being involved in such bizarre things. Emily decided to call a family friend, Dr. Richard, a psychologist, for his opinion. Dr. Richard was knowledgeable and might be able to help her understand these questions. When Emily told Dr. Richard about the strange circle, he sounded extremely worried. He advised Emily to be careful and not to touch anything related to the circle. He said it could be a demonic summoning circle, an evil ritual that could have terrible consequences. Dr. Richard's words terrified Emily. She couldn't believe her grandmother could be involved in such dark things. But the strange circle was undeniable evidence. Emily knew she was facing something very scary. After the phone call with Dr. Richard, Emily became even more worried and scared. She didn't dare stay alone in the house. But she had no other choice. She had to stay to deal with her grandmother's affairs. Emily decided to sleep in her grandmother's bedroom, which seemed brighter and less gloomy than the other rooms. She locked the door carefully and tried to doze off. But the bizarre images of the circle kept haunting her mind. That night, Emily couldn't sleep well. She kept waking up to strange noises coming from outside the room. There were creaking sounds, soft footsteps, and faint whispers she couldn't understand. Every time she woke up, Emily felt a strange coldness envelop the room. She shivered, pulled the blanket over her head, and tried to pray. She hoped everything was just due to her being too worried and imagining things. The next morning, Emily woke up feeling tired and exhausted. She decided to check the circle in the living room again. When she entered, she was horrified to realize that the characters and drawings in the circle had changed. Some characters had disappeared, and new ones had appeared. The drawings had also become more bizarre and frightening. Emily felt like someone had touched the circle during the night. Emily quickly called Dr. Richard to tell him what she had seen. Dr. Richard became even more worried. He advised Emily to leave the house immediately and seek help from people experienced in this field. Emily followed Dr. Richard's advice. She packed her luggage and quickly left that scary house. She drove to a nearby town and rented a hotel room to rest. At the hotel, Emily searched for information online about demonic summoning circles and evil rituals. She read many terrifying stories about people who had accidentally or intentionally summoned dark forces and suffered terrible consequences. Emily became even more frightened. She couldn't believe her grandmother could be involved in such things. But what she had seen and felt in that house was real. Emily knew she couldn't ignore this. She needed to find out what her grandmother had done and whether any evil force was trapped in that house. Determined to find out the truth, Emily contacted a group of paranormal experts recommended by Dr. Richard. The group was called Shadow Hunters, and they had a lot of experience investigating cases involving demons and dark forces. After hearing Emily's story, the group leader, a man named John, agreed to help her. John and the other members of the group came to the town where Emily was staying, and together they returned to her grandmother's house. As they entered the house, the cold and gloomy atmosphere still enveloped everything. John and the team members began their investigation. They used specialized equipment to measure energy and detect any unusual signs in the house. During the investigation, they discovered that there was a very strong negative energy source concentrated in the living room, where the strange circle was located. They also recorded many strange noises and saw dark shadows flitting through the house. That night, the investigation team decided to stay in the house to monitor what happened. They placed cameras in various locations and prepared for any situation that might arise. Around 3 a.m., while everyone was fast asleep, Emily suddenly woke up to a cold feeling enveloping the room. She opened her eyes and was horrified to see a figure standing at the foot of her bed. The figure was blurry and shapeless, but Emily had a strangely familiar feeling. She tried to look closer and recognized it as her grandmother. Emily's grandmother looked very different from what she remembered. Her face was pale and gaunt. Her eyes were sunken and sad. She wore an old white nightgown, and in her hand, she held a thick black book. Emily's grandmother stared intently at Emily with a look of pain. Then she gently shook her head and pointed towards the living room. Emily felt a deep sadness and utter regret in her eyes. The ghost of Emily's grandmother slowly faded into the air, leaving Emily alone in the cold room. Emily knew that her grandmother was trying to tell her something. Perhaps she regretted what she had done. After seeing her grandmother's ghost, Emily couldn't fall back asleep. She knew that the book her grandmother held might be the key to unlocking the mysteries in this house. The next morning, Emily told John and the other members of the investigation team what she had seen. They decided to search the house for the book. After a while of searching, they found a thick, old black book hidden in an old trunk in the attic. The book looked very ancient, with yellowed pages and barely legible handwritten text. John, who had knowledge of ancient books and evil rituals, carefully turned each page. He was horrified to realize that this was an ancient book of black magic, containing incantations and rituals for summoning demons. John explained that Emily's grandmother might have found this book somewhere and tried to perform a summoning ritual. But what had driven Emily's grandmother, a kind woman, to seek black magic? Emily and the investigation team were all puzzled. They continued reading the book and discovered that there was a special incantation in it that could bring wealth and power to the person who performed it. John suspected that Emily's grandmother might have been tempted by this promise. However, the book also warned of terrible consequences if the ritual was not performed correctly, or if the summoner was not strong enough to control the dark forces. John feared that Emily's grandmother had made a serious mistake. The investigation team decided to perform a counter-summoning ritual to try to release any evil forces that might have been summoned in the house. They prepared the necessary items and began performing the ritual in the living room, right at the location of the strange circle. During the ritual, strange phenomena began to occur in the house. Lights flickered continuously, objects moved on their own, and strange noises echoed everywhere. The investigation team felt a strong resistance from an invisible force. As the counter-summoning ritual was underway, the strange circle on the living room floor began to glow. A cold white light emanated from the characters and drawings, creating an eerie atmosphere in the room. Suddenly, a thick black smoke began to rise from the center of the circle. The smoke billowed out more and more, spreading throughout the room, making everyone feel suffocated and their eyes burn. From within the black smoke, a bizarre figure began to appear. It was a tall creature with fiery red skin, glowing yellow eyes, and sharp horns on its head. It had huge bat wings and a long, sinuous tail with a sharp spike at the end. The creature roared terrifyingly, causing the whole house to shake. John and the other members of the investigation team all felt utter fear. They knew they had summoned something very evil. The demon stared intently at Emily with hateful eyes. It seemed to recognize her as the descendant of the one who had summoned it. It raised its hand, its long, sharp fingers pointing towards Emily. Emily felt as if an invisible hand was squeezing her throat. She couldn't breathe, and her vision began to darken. John and the other members of the investigation team tried to continue the ritual, but the demon's power was too great. Their incantations seemed to have no effect. The demon moved closer to Emily, a wicked sneer clearly visible on its face. Emily felt like she was about to die. Just then, a blinding white light suddenly appeared in the living room. The light emanated from the ancient book that John was holding. The book seemed to be glowing on its own, and the ancient writing on the pages began to vibrate. The demon shrieked in pain, recoiling backward, covering its eyes which were burned by the light. The power of the light from the book seemed to be weakening it. The light from the ancient book continued to shine on the demon, causing it to shriek and recoil. John realized that this book was perhaps their only weapon against this evil force. He raised the book high and began to read the counter-summoning incantations powerfully and decisively. As John read, the light from the book grew stronger, pushing back the darkness and burning the demon. Its skin began to smoke, and painful groans echoed throughout the room. Emily tried to breathe deeply, feeling the power of the light protecting her. She looked at the demon writhing in pain and felt a glimmer of hope. The other members of the investigation team also joined forces with John. Together they recited prayers and incantations to strengthen the power of the light. The demon roared angrily, flapping its huge wings and trying to attack them. But the light from the book created an invisible barrier, blocking all its attacks. The battle between light and darkness was extremely intense. The demon grew weaker and weaker. Its body began to disintegrate into black dust. Finally, with a desperate scream, the demon completely vanished, leaving behind a silent room filled with white light. Emily and the investigation team breathed a sigh of relief. They had won. They had repelled the evil force and freed the house from the curse. After everything had calmed down, John explained that this ancient book had probably been found and used by Emily's grandmother to summon the demon. But she had been unable to control it, and it had haunted this house for many years. John believed that the ghost of Emily's grandmother had appeared to warn Emily and lead her to the book. Hoping that she could correct the mistake she had made, Emily felt grateful to her grandmother and the people who had helped her. She decided to keep the ancient book and learn more about it, to ensure that no one else would have to endure such terrible things as she had. After the demon was destroyed, the house returned to its normal state, but a slight feeling of coldness and gloom still lingered. The investigation team helped Emily clean up the remnants of the summoning ritual, including the strange circle on the living room floor. They carefully collected the white powder and other items related to the ritual, then took them away to be destroyed in a safe place. John explained that completely removing the traces of the ritual was crucial to prevent any other evil forces from returning. Emily decided that she would no longer stay in this house. The terrifying memories of what had happened made her unable to feel safe here. She decided to sell the house and move to another place. Before leaving, Emily went to her grandmother's bedroom and said goodbye. She thanked her for warning her and helping her face the evil force. Emily hoped that her grandmother had found peace in the afterlife. John and the investigation team stayed with Emily until she completed all the procedures related to selling the house. They also helped her find a new place to live that was safer and more comfortable. Emily knew that what she had experienced would forever be a part of her life. She had faced darkness and evil, and she had won, but she also understood that the spiritual world still held many mysteries that humans could not fully explore. From then on, Emily became stronger and more courageous. She was no longer afraid of the dark, because she knew that light could always dispel darkness. She also learned to trust her intuition and be wary of strange things around her. After what she had experienced, Emily decided to dedicate time to learning more about the spiritual world and the potential dangers of black magic. She read many books, took courses, and talked to people experienced in this field. Emily realized that her grandmother had probably turned to black magic for some reason, perhaps out of desperation or an overwhelming desire. But she had paid a very high price for her curiosity and mistake. Emily vowed that she would never follow that dangerous path. She wanted to use the knowledge and experience she had gained to help others who might be facing supernatural forces. Emily joined the Shadow Hunters group and became an active member. Together with John and the others, she investigated cases involving demons and supernatural phenomena, helped those who were haunted, and tried to prevent evil forces from harming people. Emily knew that the fight against darkness was a never-ending battle. But she believed that with unity and courage, they could protect this world from evil forces. Emily's story is a wake-up call for all of us. Always be careful with mysterious things and never play with forces we don't fully understand. Because sometimes, curiosity can lead us to the darkest and most dangerous places. If you enjoyed these true horror stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel to follow our latest videos. We will bring you more terrifying and haunting stories. Thank you for listening.